Good morning, everyone. Good morning, it's 9 o'clock. I think we can start our event. I am Tom de Groeve, the acting head of unit of the Disaster Risk Management Unit. And today we are here all together for the first Copernicus Emergency Management Service Assembly. The first time we call it an assembly to bring together all the components and all the stakeholders of this great program. So we start today with an opening of this event. We have a panel of the 3 services of the European Commission that make this service possible. So on our side, it is me for the Joint Research Center. You all know that JRC is running Copernicus and is providing a lot of the science and innovation of the program. We will have Mauro Facchini from DG DEFIS, Defense, Industry and Space, who is running the whole Copernicus program, and Olimpia Imperiali from DG ECHO, the Civil Protection, DG Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid, who is of course the biggest user and the policy umbrella for the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. In the first half hour, we will give some introductory remarks, and then I will go over the agenda of this 2-day event, where we will see a lot of news and innovation and thought-provoking sessions for the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. As I mentioned, this is the first time we call it an assembly, and this is quite meaningful because the Copernicus Emergency Management Service is a number of different things. It is both mapping using satellite imagery of situations in the aftermath of disasters, or in beforehand, of course, for the whole risk cycle, but it is also early warning systems and monitoring systems for floods, wildfires, droughts, and lately a new component has been joined on mapping exposure of built up and population. Quite different disciplines, scientific disciplines, quite different techniques and ways of doing this, but it is all under one service. And it is very important that all the different stakeholder groups come together and understand what the whole service means. So this is why last year already we grouped everything, but this time we call it an assembly, and we assemble really the whole stakeholder group together. But next to these 2 days where everybody's together, there are still the separate events where we go much deeper. And recently, probably many of you joined the EFAS workshop, 27th and 28th of September, where it was all about floods and EFAS. The 27th and 28th of October will be the rapid mapping and the risk and recovery mapping workshop. Don't miss that. And the 16th to 18th of November will be the first GHSL, the Global Human Settlement Layer workshop on population trends. And there are other events that will be defined soon on fires and droughts, etc. So these are very important too, to go more in depth. And of course, everyone else is also invited to these events if you want to look cross hazard, cross discipline, and learn from each other. It's also very special this year because it's the 10th anniversary of the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. It's 10 years ago that the first components really went operational and that the service really started working. So this is quite significant. Over 10 years, not only has the service delivered so much, has it really made a difference in the civil protection with the member states, with regional authorities, with the operations in the field. But it has also evolved a lot. If you compare now to 10 years ago, there are a lot more stakeholders, there's a lot more industry involved, We have innovated a lot to make the systems better, faster, more accurate, and anticipate more. So this assembly is a bit in this slide, the 10 years of that were in the past, and then how we look at the future. You have all received the Science for Policy brief that summarizes the status of the Copernicus Emergency Management Service now. So this is a nice document that summarizes how far we have come, how far the colleagues and all together we have pushed this service to make it something very unique. So we celebrate this 10 years, and then of course we really look at the future to make the next 10 years even more important. With this, I also want to mention, of course, that today is the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. It is not by accident that we organize this event on the 13th of October. Every year this year, we don't celebrate, but we mark the importance of disaster risk reduction, the importance of keeping our guards up, keeping working to reduce the disasters through many things, through understanding risk, through early warnings, through response. And of course, the Copernicus Emergency Management Service is a big contribution in this and has made a difference. Specifically this year, the International Day marks Target G of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and Target G. So every year another target has been marked, reducing number of people killed, reducing economic damage, etc., etc. But this year it's specifically about risk knowledge and early warning. So it is looking at progress since 2015 when the Sendai Framework was signed, what we have done in terms of early warning at national level, at a local level, but also the last mile early warning, and also about understanding the risk at all levels, at national, regional, professional organizations, but also the people. Target G is particularly important for the Copernicus Emergency Management Service because it is about early warning and about providing information for the professional stakeholders. So it's an important day, and I hope many are online also now to listen into what Copernicus can mean within the European Union, but also abroad, because there's of course also global services. And this brings me to the last point I wanted to mention, that there is a strong ambition of the UN this year. The Secretary-General of the UN has the ambition to cover every citizen in the world with early warning systems in the next 5 years. Of course, a very important and noble challenge to try to reduce. Early warning systems really can make a big difference in reducing the impact of disasters, but it is very challenging to have those systems available everywhere. Now, it is a challenge that needs to be addressed by everyone at all levels, and perhaps here we have an opportunity to make the Copernicus Emergency Management Service, which is quite unique globally, as a contribution to this UN challenge. So also in this slide, we can see the events of today and all the information you will get today as a contribution, a step towards bringing early warning to everyone in the world. So with this, I conclude my introductory remarks. I'm very happy this event is happening today, and thanks a lot to the people making it possible. The three services, of course, DG ECHO, DG DEFIS, and us, but particularly also the people in my team, Jean-François and Pietro Ceccato, and the whole team that has organized this event. They have been in contact with all the speakers and have organized a fantastic program that I will go over a little bit later after Olympia concludes her remarks. But now I would like to hand the word to Mauro Facchini, who is the head of the Copernicus program in DG DEFIS.
Thank you very much, Tom. I hope that you can hear me and you can see me. Yes, I see.
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, very good. So thank you very much for inviting me to this assembly and also to celebrate with you these 10 years of emergency service. I think it is a good, it is a pleasure for me to be here. So I am Mauro Facchini. I'm the head of Earth Observation, DEFIS, and as such, I'm responsible for the Copernicus program as a whole. And I'm proud that I was at the beginning of this service as well 10 years ago when we really started to put that in place and making that a kind of a cooperation between JRC, DG ECO, and ourselves. And I think that the results that we get since demonstrate that it was a good choice. So why Copernicus and why emergency? So indeed, Copernicus was created in order to support user requirements, and among these user requirements, indeed, need for civil protections and for emergency activations were among those that were most important. So Copernicus, as an idea, started 25 years ago, by the way, in a place that is not far from where you are, Tom. And emergency has been one of the first services 10 years ago, because when we speak about 10 years of emergency, it's not all the services that can say that they are 10 years old. It is one of those that have been immediately operational since the beginning. At that moment, there were, I would say, mostly two modules. There was rapid mapping on one side, and we were able also to integrate EFAS, and that was already major and done in other sides. But since then, we were able really to grow together, to improve our activities, to demonstrate also other areas where we are involved. And so this was done in a progressive way with EFAS, with routes, with settlement layers, and so on. Today, Copernicus is considered a first-class operational Earth observation system. This is recognized, I think, all around the world. And this is true for the satellites, the infrastructure, and so on, but also for the services. And I mean, I can say that we receive very frequently letters of appreciation from third countries that have been helped by our activations. So appreciation inside the EU, but also outside. Example, we very frequently receive thanks from the US, from the FEMA, from Australia, and so on. Whenever we are able to help them in those in their needs. Indeed, activations can happen in different areas, ranging from floods, fires, earthquake, volcanic eruptions, landslides, and so on and so. What is also very important is that Copernicus and emergency service is not following its own life. It's really fully embedded in the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, and I think that Olympia will be able also to confirm that in the next presentation. And for this, the work that is done by Copernicus observation and data that are made available to civil protection is done really in synergy with other activities that are run at the Union Civil Protection level. What happened this year in 2022, I mean, is also demonstration of how this service has become very active, very major in the number of activations. We all know that, and we have experienced the heat that we had during this summer, and the drought that have been affecting all Europe and not only. I think you have all. I mean, it was quite impressed with me coming back from holidays to Brussels that everything was actually everything was burned, so there was no green grass at all. So it was really dramatic, and this was already in some way anticipated by the European Drought Observatory already in May, June. So they were already anticipating that this would have happened. So just to demonstrate that emergency is not just a reaction, but is following really the full cycle of the activities. So we can activate in long term, like droughts, or even in short terms, in the shorter terms with EFAS for floods monitoring, or with EPIS for the conditions that could favor fires. And due to these droughts, indeed, I think there were also a lot of wildfires that happened during the summer. And I have to say that almost every day I got notifications of activation of these the emergency service, both on the basis of DEFIS, but also on reaction to real fires that were happening. I think I have a figure here that during 2022 we had more than 80 emergencies around the world that were activated. Maybe the number is underestimated. And I have to say the number is not limited by the capacity of ECHO or the GRC. It's limited sometimes about the funding that we have available to activate all this. But the number of these activators, and I don't know if you will show some of these statistics later on during these 2 days, have really increased over the years, and the service has really become a reference for emergency activations. Again, so wildfires all around Europe. We had floods, not just in Europe, but also all around the world. In particular, there has been one, I think, in Pakistan that was very dramatic, on which emergency has been activated. But beyond those activations about floods, about fires, about droughts, and so on, we had also other activations that from time to time happen. And one particular is the volcanic eruption in the island of La Palma, where the emergency service gave really a good support that was very much appreciated by the Spanish authorities, and I think we're also proud that we received a medal on that by the Spanish Civil Protection, so a merit medal on those activations. So just really also again to demonstrate how much this service is appreciated. What will happen next? So it's not the fact that we have a service in place that we say, we are happy, so this will be as it is forever. I think we have all the time the ambition to make it better and more adapted to the user requirements, and maybe also to introduce new modules, as has been done over time with the introduction, for example, of droughts, as we said. So it's very important to look ahead. And in general, I think in the strategy that we have for space activities in the Commission is really to modernize what we are doing. And there are 3 aspects and three main elements that we would like to include more and more for the future. The first one is about more digital. So introducing even more and more digital technologies. Already today, the data processing from satellites is very much advanced, and so we receive very good maps, and we receive also very good anticipations of potential events. But with new IT capacities like machine learning, artificial intelligence, high performance computing, all this can be even improved for the future. So first is about digital. Second way is about more and more involvement of industrial capacities. The industry is already the one that, following the control in some way of and the procurement activities of the GRC, is really doing all those activations. And we have a very good interaction with industry. At the same time, we have to see how to really streamline even better to attract even more industry in that respect, and to look to the best solutions that are available for the future, still keeping a continuity of the services. So we don't want to destabilize the current one, but at the same time, we have to see if other actors could be brought into the picture. And last but not least, I think we would like also to increase the governmental support of Copernicus in general. Indeed, this is already done in emergency, because we are already serving civil protections that are really part of the governmental network inside of Europe. But there might be other kinds of activations that could be done in support of other needs in different governments, or in needs in the European Commission, different EU policies. Last but not least, for example, climate change, that is very much also linked to what we do in the emergency activation. And so, for all this, we have a very good dialogue, first of all, with JRC, with ECHO for all these activities, but at the same time with different DGs, so different EU policies, and different member states and industry. And so I'm quite sure that a successful service as it is today will become even more modern for the future, because we know that we really need to keep at the level of the evolving technology in everyday life. I will not take much more of that, because I think you will have many interesting presentations to give later, and so I hand over to you, Tom, thanking you again for inviting me to this important assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauro. Very, very interesting messages. And indeed, it's very important to keep innovating with the industry and for policy. Those are very important points. I mentioned perhaps also that part of this is also done through knowledge centers that we have at the GRC. On the one hand, the Disaster Risk Management Knowledge Center, where inside the Commission, 12 DGs, 12 different policy areas are connected and are talking about disaster risk and science for disaster risk. And this is an opportunity to bring, for instance, Copernicus to all those different services like climate change, environmental areas, etc. So that's definitely something very helpful. And also with the member states, of course, in all those areas. But then also the Knowledge Center on Earth Observation is very important. And it's another platform, a forum where we really talk about making Earth observation more useful for policy support. And all these things work together, of course, to make these services as fit for purpose as they can. Thank you, Mauro. And I would like now to give the word to Olympia from DG ECHO, the real user of Copernicus, where the action happens, where civil protection is really protecting civilians. Olympia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really honored to be called to open this the Copernicus Emergency Management Service Annual Assembly together with you, DG DEFIS, Mauro, and Tom, DG GRC, in the year that we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Copernicus. So it's even more honored for me. Of course, we have a real close cooperation since the beginning of Copernicus with both DG DEFIS and DG GRC. You are, and you know, key partners in our daily work. And this close cooperation has been definitely materialized into a tripartite agreement that gave a more structured cooperation, even more structured cooperation in this. As I said, yes, and as Mauro has pointed out, for us, Copernicus Emergency Management Services to manage emergencies. It helps monitoring, detecting, forecast, assessing, planning the response, which is an important element, because in fact, in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, there are very few reliable information within the 48 hours most of the time, and the picture that Copernicus provide us and the information that we receive from the early warning system are absolutely key to our work. As you know, the Union Civil Protection Mechanism is a reinforced cooperation covering prevention, preparedness, and response. And the Emergency Response Coordination Center is coordinating the response provided by the EU member state, based on EU member states and the participating states, every there is a request for assistance. Now, this it's also the reason why sometimes the number of activation of Copernicus might be different sometimes from the numbers of activation. But it is interesting to see in the statistics that since the 2012, the mechanism has been triggered. So we have received approximately almost 500 requests for assistance. So we have activated and coordinated the response. And more or less, I would say it's more or less this corresponds to the number of activation of the the Copernicus rapid mapping in particular, which is interesting. So for each disaster, we always use Copernicus. So this is something important to say. And of course, one of the successful, for sure, latest activation was for La Palma. Indeed, as Mauro said, we have even received a medal. I think that this really show the usefulness and from EU member states. So that really give the level of importance that is for member states. I have to say that lately we are not only users, but also actors and contributing to the development of the component of early warning system. As I said, the early warning system become more and more important and is a cornerstone in any disaster risk management policy and strategy. And under the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, we have received a mandate. We, as European Commission, we have received a mandate to complement the member states' capacity. So we don't have a real mandate in alerting people, but we alert the EU member states national authorities. So we are closely monitoring the development of the different early warning system, floods, for floods, for drought, and forest fires, which are really key and needs to be further integrated into the national system. We have seen that very much even as a request from the EU member states when it has happened after the tragic floods in 2021 that has the Northern Europe has been affected. And indeed, for them, it is very important that we support them in the national responsibility in the field of early warning system. So that is also another call from our side to really not call it, I would say it underline even more how Copernicus it is important in our daily work as daily work. Copernicus Emergency Management Service is key and become even more key looking at the latest trends. If you think that the Union Civil Protection Mechanism in the last years have been activated almost 100 times per year, which is a big increase compared to the previous year, so before 2019, where the average since is starting in 2002 was 2022 per year. So we have passed from 2022 to 100 per year, which is a huge, enormous amount of effort also from the Emergency Response Coordination Center, which needs to be increased, of course, in terms of capacity, and we are doing our best to do so. But this show also that indeed the trends will not slow down due to, for example, the new climate change consequences that foresee the severity of extreme weather event, for example. Of course, we are closely looking on the development and that Copernicus should go ahead. In particular, I think by filling some of the gaps when, for example, in the imagery, we don't receive sometimes in time the imagery for some gap. Now we're very about this new component helping somehow to fill the gap. We are very much appreciating, for example, the fact that there are better estimation of built area. This is go very much into this based approach that Copernicus needs really to, and in particular here I speak about the warning system, needs to engage. I know that there is doing already, but it's an important really element, the impact. And of course, for example, also the new tools that we have nowadays, for example, the one that integrate the coastal flood risk into the flood monitoring and forecasting system, it's also very much appreciated because it provides really the additional scientific data that are very important during an emergencies and to better understand. So this continuous development, integrating research outputs in particular, and this is very, very important. And here I see really the relevance of the disaster risk knowledge, the Disaster Risk Management Knowledge Center, embedded in the science pillar of the knowledge network, which is this new, I would say, is not really new, but is new in the relatively new, let's say, is really something that needs to be, I found it fundamental for Copernicus Emergency Management Service for further developing its services that are key for our daily work, as I tried to say. Thank you, Tom and Mauro, for and for this great cooperation we are really having together. And it's a pleasure to be here celebrating the 10th anniversary of Copernicus.
Absolutely. Thanks, Olympia, for your remarks. And of course, the collaboration is essential. Nobody could do it alone. So it's really necessary to have all the parties in the commission, the three of us together, but also the collaboration with industry and research organizations, the projects of the Horizon Europe program, etc. It's a whole ecosystem that makes this whole Copernicus possible now. You mentioned the increase in number of activations, and absolutely this is crucial, of course. No, this service cannot be sustainable with the way the climate change is going, the way the extreme events are increasing, and we need to innovate. We need to make changes to just keep up with what is happening. So you will hear today also a lot of these kind of innovations, making new approaches and trying to provide what is necessary for the civil protection actors that need to deal with this. But we all know we cannot respond only to all these, because that would be too much for anyone. There's not enough money for this, there's not enough people for that. We need to look at prevention and climate change adaptation. And in this also the Copernicus Emergency Management Service plays a role by understanding the risks, understanding where it is going, and this feeds in, of course, in the policies on climate change adaptation, the policies on environmental issues like water and forest fires, etc. With this, we can conclude our welcome and we can go into the real program. And maybe I very briefly go over this program for all the people online. So we have a 1.5 day program. Today will be a little more looking back at what has been achieved, what we did in the last 10 years, the latest innovations we have put in the Copernicus Emergency Management System. A lot about the use. At 11:15, the session will look at best practices, how the services of Copernicus Emergency of CEMS are used by others, by governments, by organizations, what is really the use of it. And we will also look at other policies, including climate change, and how this is used in the policy landscape. And we end the day today with how this service works together with other services under the same Copernicus umbrella, because also there we need synergy and integration to do more with less. Tomorrow, we look a bit more ahead, and there will be specific sessions on research projects that are funded under the Horizon Europe program and perhaps other programs, but research projects that look ahead and that potentially look at things that can be integrated in the service in the future. We will have innovation keynotes, do a bit more in-depth talks. And finally, we close then the assembly with a glimpse into the future of the Copernicus Emergency Management Service on what each of the components will do in the next few years.